There's so many things to say about our next guest. She's a very interesting person with 13 years experience at Ryanair. Among other things, she has been working as the sales and marketing manager for Italy, head of sales and marketing Europe, and to finish off with 3 years as a director of commercial revenues. What stuck with me from our first talk is that she's so passionate that she's worried that she won't be able to follow and be a part of the digital revolution in this business. And as a mother of 2 boys, she still wants to keep up with the changes and find new possibilities to change a small part of the world. Now we will meet a woman who loves to work hard and make things profitable with ancillary revenues. And every time I talk to her, I just want to hear more and keep digging. Please welcome Sinead Finn.
Pretend they turn the lights down.
Thank you, Simon.
I guess we should do that too. Okay.
We will have a Q&A, so
Yeah,
please.
great. Morning, everybody. Okay, so
You get the cow couch. No,
No,
we're on the cow
you will
couch.
sit here.
Okay, good.
So it's a pleasure to have you in our hometown this
It's
time.
lovely to be here.
Yeah. You achieved so much with Ryanair. Can you tell me what are some of the things motivating you?
I think, well, one of the things motivating me is I like to work hard, so that's one thing. Second thing is I love meeting new and interesting people. And a third would have to be I've got to earn enough money to give my children a good education, which is quite expensive in England, which is where I live, although I am Irish.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned when we talked earlier was that what was very interesting actually, for me. I asked you to tell me some key factors that made Ryanair so successful. You said something about hiring young people.
Yes, I mean, Ryanair, it's quite a different business now from the business that I joined in 1998. But in 1998, there were 200 employees and there were 1 million customers a year. I mean, now there's probably over 8,000 employees. And they have over 80 million customers a year. So it's quite a different business. But when I joined, the average age was only 24. So there was a very young ethos in the company, probably very, very similar to a lot of e-commerce businesses, in that, you know, every day you were just flying by the seat of your pants, and it was quite a crazy environment, but it was a young environment which enabled everybody who was part of it to actually play a part in it, or to come up with good ideas. And those ideas would be implemented. So, for example, if you had an advertising idea, no matter where you worked, which department you worked in, it didn't matter if you were in sales and marketing, if you had a good idea, that could end up in the newspapers the next morning. So I think that was a great way of running a very young business, you know, and just keeping it vibrant and energetic.
Whenever I'm going to meet someone like you, the first thing I do is to Google that person.
That's dangerous.
Do you know what first came up about you?
No, I don't.
This is what first came up.
Female Ryanair executive faces bang mob after promotional stunt backfires.
You have to tell us about this.
Okay, well, the first thing is I wasn't supposed to be there. So that's the first thing. That was a Monday morning. I can't remember what year it was. Probably says it on there, does it? Oh, yeah, in 2006. And what happened was we got a call on Friday. With the tactics that we used at Ryanair at that time was guerrilla marketing. It was a way of getting noticed without it costing a lot of money. And we had every week there was something happening, to be honest. But this particular Monday, this was one of the events happening. But on Friday, we had a call to our office to say that we were launching 25 new routes. And that's typically how it happened, because negotiations for new routes would happen right up until the last minute. So on a Friday, you'd realize, okay, I've got to go on Monday and I have to announce all these routes. So the team that I worked on then there were a team of 20 of us. And of course, that wasn't enough to go around and launch all these routes, plus do this as well. So I was in charge of that team, and I volunteered myself up to go and do this, of course not realizing what was going to happen. But we had just launched routes to Barcelona. I think it was just a new base there. And the idea was to invite Iberia customers to come with placards saying why they would prefer to fly with Ryanair over Iberia. Suffice to say, when I got to they were invited to come to the square in Catalonia, Plaza de Catalunya, they would get free tickets. Suffice to say, when I actually got to the square, it was just an absolute riot. So not really fully understanding that the Catalans quite like to create havoc, and I simply just didn't have enough tickets to give out to them. So I mean, it was a great story, really. It didn't feel great walking, because I had to make a decision. I saw this group, I was on my own, I had X number of tickets in my both hands. I had to make a decision. Okay, I go into this absolute mob and could get myself killed, or else I run away and I could get myself fired. So what I decided to do was to go right into it, which of course was the right decision. And Michael, our CEO, was absolutely thrilled, and he made it made all the front newspapers in the UK as well and everywhere else, because he was delighted. So he wrote a press release the following day about how there was a riot over Ryanair tickets and how everybody wants Ryanair tickets. So in the end, it all worked out quite good, although I did need a day off work after it to recover.
Okay, but that's a very aggressive move in many ways. So I can imagine a lot of companies, maybe they come up with this idea as a joke in the office, but you never actually follow through with it. So I want to ask you, is Ryanair internally, is this kind of culture encouraged to do things like this?
Yeah, so as I was saying earlier, Ari, Ryanair has changed a lot, obviously, since I was there. But at this particular time, Ryanair is now the largest airline in Europe. So, but when and it was when I was leaving, but actually while I was there, we were building a business like many of you here today. So the idea was, you had X million in a marketing budget, and the idea was to just create as much
bang for your buck.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what it was all about. I mean, there was an equally fantastic, a few weeks after this, stunt that we pulled in Madrid, which was we invited everybody to come to Madrid in the middle of the winter in their bikinis and bring their beach towels right into the center, again in the center of Madrid. And there were 2 helicopters in the air that day because it was obviously there's no sea around Madrid, so it was quite things like that just were a fantastic way of getting the message out that Ryanair had arrived and the fares were low, and that's how one should fly.
Yeah. So okay, you've also worked with a somewhat controversial man. You just mentioned him, Michael Leary. He was the CEO, or still is the CEO of Ryanair. And sometimes it seems like he can be somewhat of a not a negative thing, but a ticking time bomb. You never know what he's going to say next. So I wanted to ask: is this how he really is, or is this sort of a publicity thing?
Yeah. So. Yes, I think the important thing about Michael is he always knows what's coming next. Everybody else might not, but he knows what he's doing, and he's very clever. And working for him, I really enjoyed working for him because although he is tough, he's very fair. So if you work hard and you're prepared to put in the hours and also, bring something to the organisation, then you'd be fine.
Okay. As Ari mentioned, he has quite a record when it comes to memorable quotes, and I'm going to read someone for you. On consultants, I believe hiring consultants is an abdication by management of their responsibilities. If the consultant is so good at managing change, then why not hire him to run the company and do it himself? Every idiot who gets fired in the industry shows up as a consultant somewhere, I would shoot any consultant who came through my door.
So, did you use consultants?
No, but they have since.
Someone got shot, maybe, no?
No. Again, when I was there, no, they didn't. But they have used consultants in recent years, albeit, not. I think that the main thing there is really just how you spend your money, and if you can afford to absorb somebody who's really, really good into the organisation, well, why not? Having said that, there are consultants that are very good at their job, but probably cost too much money to hire. So then, at some point, you're going to have to give in, I suppose, to that, and try and have some time with that person if you really feel they're of value. But to a certain extent, Michael is right. If there's somebody out there that you think is great, just hire them.
I have another quote from Michael. He says, "We expect our profits to grow by 20 to 25%. That's not just good, that's practically obscene in an industry in which few people make money. This isn't an airline, it's a drug baron's business." So, has it been difficult for you guys to make money in the travel industry?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose quotes like that really are very much, it is quite boring talking about financials and profits, etc., and so forth. So Michael colours them up, by using these phrases. But it is actually quite difficult. It is very difficult if you're an airline. It's most difficult if you're an airline. And in fact, where airlines have really fallen down, and Ryanair and easyJet would be different in this respect, is the technology. So what's happened is technology businesses such as the OTAs, so the online travel agencies, and aggregators, and businesses who are kind of, I suppose, riding on the back of what an airline does, or what a hotel or a hotel group does. Those businesses have done really well because they've been really fast to move. They've seen an opportunity. They've been able to capitalize on that opportunity. Meanwhile, a lot of the airlines have been sitting back, letting this happen to them. Not really fully appreciating, well, you can be an airline, but you can also have a technology business. Just drive, and this is what Ryanair did very, very successfully, and easyJet as well, and some other low-fare carriers around Europe, Norwegian being another. They just managed to capitalize and get in there on time with the internet. So Ryanair first started sales on the internet in 2000, and that gave them a very unique opportunity to, I suppose, sell to the customer directly, removing the GDS. So that's the system which enables travel agents to book airline tickets. See, every step of the way, the airline is being squashed because they have to pay very high airport fees. They have to pay very high costs of distribution through these GDS systems, and they just can't seem to get away from that high cost base. Then there's fuel, and then there's staff. So, it is an expensive business to run, and it is difficult to make money. You have to really, I suppose, understand. And again, Ryanair, I suppose, was lucky in many respects because it didn't have a hangover effect of, the type that SAS or British Airways, and they had to completely remodel when they saw the success of businesses like Ryanair and easyJet, and they had to refocus. But even still today, it's difficult for them to get, to get to where they probably should be.
So when you guys first started to work with ancillaries and additional services, how did you manage to get all the different cultures you guys work with to sort of join in and agree with this and be okay with it?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the interesting, another interesting thing about Ryanair was, obviously in my time we entered all the new markets, because when I joined, Ryanair was only operating between Ireland and the UK, and they had a route, they had one route in in Belgium and another route to Oslo, funnily enough. And that was it. So they floated in 1997, and from 1998 onwards, it started to grow and grow and grow. And the one thing was, because Ryanair had a low cost base, and because the fares were low, no matter what market Ryanair went into, that market was willing to book and fly Ryanair. I think another reason why that was successful, and this is an interesting for your business as well, I think this is quite interesting, is that Ryanair went locally into the markets. So EasyJet didn't do that. Ryanair went locally into the markets and actually said, here we are, spoke to the local people, did contracts with local people, and mainly the publicity was in the local area. So because of that, then, Ryanair's origination traffic was actually much higher, out of each market than EasyJet's, for example, because they just launched the product. And then to go into ancillaries, the ancillary product, I think there's two types of ancillary products. So there's the ancillary products, which are the airline's own products. So that would be things like bags, online check-in, priority boarding. And then there's ancillary products, which are partnerships. So that's a partnership with somebody like Cartroller, who you're going to be speaking to later, or a partnership with Booking.com to enable your customer to book those products online. So really, there are two different. I think the ones you're talking about are probably the more controversial ones, which are the airline's own ancillary revenue, where you introduce extra payments for certain products. I think the point about that is it's discretionary. So you don't have to, check in a bag. And what Ryanair found at that time when that change was made was that actually more than 50% of Ryanair's customers were taking on their bags on board anyway. So this could actually be a way of lowering the airfares, while those that want to bring their bags, check in their bags, will just have to pay that little bit extra. And that's the way it's been all along. If you go back to, even 1997, 1998, you always had to buy a tea or coffee on Ryanair, whereas on British Airways, you get it for free. But the difference being the price of the ticket.
Yeah. We found another quote from Michael O'Leary about your profit when it comes to ancillaries.
Yeah, he said that these record profits reflect a 20% growth in passenger volumes, a 1% decline in yields, and strong ancillary growth. Ancillary revenues grew by 54% to 252 million due to improved penetration of car hire, hotels, travel insurance, as well as strong onboard sales and excess baggage revenues. Ancillaries now account for just over 16% of total revenues as we make steady progress towards our 20% target. And then he said that, so Ryanair's 408 million euro profit, along with the ancillary revenues of 252 million, is an example of the potential significance of ancillary revenues in airline profits.
So can you tell us how you worked with this culture of driving sales so hard?
Yeah, I think, the big thing, and probably if there's anything I miss about, being in a business like Ryanair, is the teamwork. There was a fantastic group of people who worked really closely together, and there was a lot, this is what I find being outside of a business like that other departments don't talk to each other. But where I worked, everybody spoke to each other. Everybody knew who the person was to go to when they needed to get something done. It happened very quickly. It was like that, things got done really quickly. You didn't have to wait. And the other big thing was, it really frustrates me when people put up roadblocks. If you ever sit back and you're on a conference call, or, you're in a meeting, and you really sit back and you listen and you think, how many times has that person said no to me in a roundabout way? So it could, but it's just, and I think there's another roadblock, I'm going to move it. There's another roadblock, I'm going to move it. Because the organization I worked in didn't have roadblocks.
Oh,
okay.
Interesting.
So do you think it's possible to go too far with what you charge your customers for?
Yes,
to irritate
absolutely,
them?
Definitely.
Okay.
A good example of that would be, so if you take the booking flow I suppose maybe we just take Ryanair for example, but you could take any airline as an example. But if you go through the booking flow, and one of the big, and this is another area where you guys could probably seriously capitalize on if you can get it right, because I don't think an airline's going to do it, but it's this personalization, so understanding who I am as a customer. So when I come in, I'm not looking for you to actually sell me the kitchen sink. I genuinely, when I travel to Milan, I just want to go to Milan and I want to get, a transfer that takes me from Milan into the city centre. I've already booked my hotel. I'm not booking it through you. And I've already taken travel insurance because I travel all the time anyway. I think the issue is if you put too many things in the booking flow, even if a customer actually wants to buy travel insurance, they're just going to go no, because it's irritating. So I think it is definitely how you communicate to the customer is very important, and understanding as much as possible about the customer. And when I open EasyJet's homepage, why can't it be personalized to me? I mean, there are people out there doing this every day. Why can't it be personalized to me? Why do I have to look at what somebody else looks at? So airlines have a long way to go in terms of understanding the customer more, and then giving that customer what he or she actually wants.
So if an online retailer here in the audience wants to improve their sales of the extra services, what 3 things should they focus on?
Well, I think the first thing to focus on is the primary product. So the product that brings in everybody to your site, because that has to be right. And, again, why did Ryanair bring in ancillaries? Well, really the focus was still on the core product, because the idea was get the price of the core product down, and make the money elsewhere. So it's like going to the cinema and paying for your seat, but then paying, double that price for popcorn and Coke. So it's very much that sort of mentality. So you look after the core product, and then after that, it's just what I've been talking about. It's just understanding who that customer is who's coming to you, and offering that customer what they're looking for, not what they're not looking for, which I suppose is easier said than done. But
Okay, but right now, if I understand this right, you're helping companies to find the right networks and grow, basically, and be profitable. So what are some mistakes that startup companies make, in your opinion, that you've seen?
Okay, so I mean, I have a great life now, because I didn't really think it would end up like this, but I have a fantastic life in that a lot of tech businesses come to me, so be it European, US based, or UK based, come to me because they need connections in travel. And what I tend to do is I will do the deals. So I'll do those big deals which will generate the traffic. So I'll do a deal with Ryanair, or I'll do a deal with British Airways, or could be with Expedia or whoever, on behalf of the tech businesses. I think there's 2 areas that I've noticed, I suppose, in the last sort of 3.5 years since I've been doing this. And the first really is, anyone can set up a website, and people tend to give themselves big titles, and don't tend to want to sort of, get their hands dirty, or maybe that's the wrong phrase. I mean, get down and actually do the real grit work that's involved in creating a successful business, because that's what, people need to do. It's more, they come to me and they think I'm going to solve all the problems, in that sense, or they don't even realize that it's a problem. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, you're going to actually have to go and do that yourself. They're thinking, no, I need to go to an investor and I need to get, another 250,000 so that I can hire someone else to do that for me. No, you need to go out and do it yourself, or no investor will, invest in you. So I think that's the, one of the first things. I think one of the second things is I notice that people, I talk to, so they come to me and they kind of fish around a little bit, and then they think, well, this is fine, I'll come back to you in 2 years when I've, built the business more, or I have more money or whatever. And I just go, well, no, there's no point in doing that, because what I can do is get you straight in the door of such and such, such and such, and such and such, and then at least you will be able to make money. And inevitably, what happens is either those businesses, it's very difficult to actually get to penetrate a whole. If I decided now tomorrow, well, I'm going to go into retail, or I'm going to go into, I'm going to go into the restaurant trade, and it's very difficult, to get into something like that without having contacts. You need the contacts, and that's why that was like, it's a really good question, because, you could have a fantastic idea, but to actually get that in the door of somewhere is actually much harder than people think.
So are there any projects that you're working with right now that you're excited about, and what about them interests you?
Yeah, I mean, there's always projects I'm working on that are exciting. I only work with exciting people. That's one of the rules I put on myself since leaving working for Michael O'Leary. But no, there's some great businesses that I'm working with great ideas. There are people out there, who are competing with Google, enabling, I suppose, travel companies to be able to advertise to their customers in the way that Google does, and passing that revenue then back to the data provider, which would be the airline or the OTA or whoever. So there's some fantastic, moves happening in the area of flight disruption, which is on the customer service side. So communicating with that customer, through mobile. So there's a lot of exciting. There are businesses that are trying to improve from a technology point of view how airlines sell their ancillary revenue products. What I do notice though is a lot of these businesses seem to be US based, and I just think it would be great to see more European businesses thriving, because I think what I have noticed is a lot of ideas seem to come from here, and for some reason they seem to just
end up in America or something.
And the success stories end up over there, when actually, in fact, no, it was here. And I don't know if has that something got to do with funding, or but there's some great businesses I've seen that have just been mirrored in the US and just tend to.
We want to ask the audience. We have time for one question on Twitter. Karsten, do we have any questions?
Actually, no real questions in that way. More like just lots of observations.
Okay, yeah. Okay, good.
We've heard a lot about your former CEOs, many statesmen. I would like to close with what he said about you. And he said that Sinead has made an incredible contribution to the success and development of Ryanair. We could not have grown to where we are today without her. So that was nice, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sinead, for being here. It was fantastic. Listen to all your advice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks very much.
Thank you.